another episode of the Awesome Life podcast. I'm Karen Stultz, your host, and I am here with the most amazing, wonderful, fantabulous person, a new friend of mine, Mahima. Mahima is the creator of the Mahima Mindset. She is also, bear with me here, she is an international speaker and author. She is a founder of the Mahima Mindset. She is a trainer, and she is coming to us from Switzerland, where the Mahima Mindset emanates from. She is the first Black self-mastery mentor to have spoken at the Harvard Club in Boston, and she has shared the stage with Richard Branson and at an event in Singapore. She has shared the stage with all kinds of amazing thought leaders, and I am so honored to have her as my guest on the Awesome Life podcast. She is the creator of the Inner Peace Formula and Own Your Superstar, multi-award-winning training. And since 1997, her team and she have developed a world-class personal growth academy, which has evolved today to be known as the Mahima Mindset, that will help you find your higher purpose and live your higher purpose. So welcome. Thank you for joining me today, Mahima.
Thank you, Karen. I'm always very surprised to hear my bio. Like, what? Is that me? Have I done all that? Oh, wow. Yes, I have.
You have
Okay.
done all of that, and it's so cool. So tell me, how did all of this get started? How did you create this from Zimbabwe up to an international speaker? Whole story.
The whole story. Okay, so I'll try to tell the whole story in a mini version.
Okay.
It started with an awakening. It started with a realization when I got divorced at the age of 21, and went to India, and very randomly went to India. So I had never any plans of going to India. I was never into the eat, pray, love, looking for myself, seeking inner peace kind of person. I was just, an ordinary girl from Zimbabwe that, was dealing with all of my negativity that had been handed down to me, unfortunately, but I think all of us have this, from generation to generation to generation. Yeah, my poor great grandmother lived in a hut in Africa without running water or electricity, not having opportunity to really go to school and make something out of her life. And then she had my grandfather, who was brought up in apartheid as well, right? Segregation of black and white people. You're not allowed to sit on this bench. You're not allowed to go to that toilet. You can't go to this school. You can't do this. You can't do that. All of that stuff. So lots of pain, lot of restriction, lot of limitation, living in kind of like, my grandfather didn't live in the hut, but he did live in a kind of like a kind of ghetto, right? Like where lots of basic houses, like one bedroomed houses with a toilet that could flush, right?
Well,
But
moving up.
yeah. So going better, but still not a toilet that you could sit on. You had to squat, and so slowly, things were improving in the family, right? My mother, she got to live, in a apartment in the city at one point. They moved to an apartment in the city, or in another suburb. Actually, they didn't live in an apartment in the city. They lived in another suburb, so which was slightly, better than the ghetto place where my grandfather lived. My grandmother, she was a bit lighter. She looked like an Italian. She has blue eyes, kind of straight hair, she was kind of like passing area for the colored people, and that was a slightly better, nicer place. So just the reason I'm telling all of this is to just show that we are conditioned by what has happened to the people before us, the way we think, feel, and act about life, the way we respond to education, to success, to sex, to money, to all the things that matter. How we think about it is based on how we've been taught to think about it, right?
Mm.
So at one point, I'm sort of 18 years old. I meet this guy from Switzerland, and he starts showing me another perspective, right? Because he lived a great life in Switzerland. Now, my sister and I, we lived in that apartment in the city, right? With a proper toilet, electricity, running water. So always was life improving, right, for my family and through the generations. But still, I remember going to a school when I was 12 years old where only white people had been allowed to go, like the previous year. And then Zimbabwe gained independence, all of that collapsed, and suddenly I could go to that school, right? Which I hadn't been allowed to go to. So those are the type of things that I grew up with, right? Racial unfairness, or whatever you want to call it. I grew up with parts of my family living in absolute poverty, while others, lived a better life. There was aggression in my family. People were angry, understandably, right? So, and that comes out as physical abuse to children. And
Mm.
it was very common back then, and maybe some families experience this too. They'd beat the crap out of you, okay? It wasn't just hey, let
Yeah.
me do this. It was like, you got bruises, okay?
Beat
And
beat you
it
hard.
was, yeah, they beat you hard. So all of that, I didn't realize that I was messed up. I thought I'm just normal, everything's fine. On top of that, add strict religion, right? Need to go to church every Sunday, having people yell at you for not going to church. Couple that with having to do confession to Father Thomas, who, had a long white robe. They would do like stuff in Latin. It was a Roman Catholic church. They would have hymns in Latin. No, I had no connection to this. I was just scared of God, scared of the devil, scared
Mhm.
of, sin, because already with, 7, 8, 9, I had to start going to confession. And I would go in front of this priest and kneel in front of him and have to say, "Forgive me, Father, I've sinned." And he's looking at me, and I'm like, whatever, 8 years old. And so I was messed up, to cut a long story short. So when I met my first husband, and he came from Switzerland, there were opportunities to travel, there were opportunities to live, in a nice house and do nice things. I couldn't enjoy any of this because I was just like broken inside.
Mm.
And I didn't know I was broken inside until I was in this marriage, right? And responding like a broken person does, right? So even though you have abundance, you think it's going to make you happy. You have money, you think it's going to make you happy. It doesn't. What makes you happy is what you feel inside yourself, how you feel inside your own skin. What makes you happy are the thoughts inside of your mind, and how you think about life and yourself, and how your talents and skills and the things you can do to contribute to the world, right? So at 21, I got divorced, obviously, because I was messy. My husband was also messy, and between the two messinesses, it just didn't work out.
That
And
took a lot of
uh,
strength too. That took a lot of strength
yes,
on your part to have that divorce. Yeah, that's huge.
absolutely, absolutely, and it was quite devastating. And then I, was meeting this one guy on my way to some other place. Bit of a longer story, but anyway, he said to me, "You're a mess. Go to India." Go to India, go to this address, and he sent me to this ashram. Okay, where was this? The guru was already dead, but there was a beautiful ashram, cool people. I went over there. My first ever meditation Karen, I had this experience of leaving behind my fearful thinking and my disrupted emotions, and I entered into a state of inner peace in my first
Mm.
meditation. And I was so surprised by what I was feeling. But I can explain why I felt this, because I was in an energy field with like 1,000 people meditating in this huge hall. And when people come together, you're creating some kind of energy, right? So if people come together peacefully to push great ideas out into the world and to feel, it creates an energy field that allows you to access things that you might not otherwise access. So there I am having this amazing experience of feeling peace and love and joy. And I'm like, what is happening to me? Well, discovered that meditation was one of my superpowers. On that day, I immediately started meditating for like 2 hours each day, which then increased to 4 hours, 5, 6 hours a day. And I spent, when everybody my age would be at university studying, to get them, masters or whatever, I was sitting with a teacher working on healing myself from my negative mindset and from my, trauma that I'd experienced with all of this weird stuff I told you about, the apartheid and the poverty and all of these things, right? So that is how it started. It just started with me having a profound experience of awakening, honoring that experience, and continuing to do the work. I spent 5 years on that trip, meaning that I'd be like for 7, 8 months with the teacher there, and then I would travel to New York. Then I would go back to India, and I'd spend another 9, 10 months, and then I'd go to Bali for 2 months. And I lived this kind of gypsy-free life for 5 years, where I would say 90% of the time I was in India, sitting quietly and investigating how to heal myself and be a more powerful person. With 27, I discovered that I wanted to teach others because I saw that I was so much more joyful. And people always asked me, what's like, your energy is amazing. What's going on? And people that had no clue about meditation or no clue about any of this stuff, I would go traveling in the world, even just in a shop, people would approach me and be like, oh my God, you have such amazing energy. So I just knew that this was my gift. Somehow, this whole trip, yeah, that had found me was going to be my destiny. And I decided to start teaching. And I started teaching with 27. And I just celebrated my 51st birthday this year. And yeah, so it's been
Happy
a
birthday.
journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow,
And
that is amazing. That is amazing. I I I would love to hear your um, thoughts on the matter. Somebody suggested a different perspective. I love different perspectives. Anytime I can get a different, doesn't mean I'm going to go with your idea, but I love those different perspectives. And someone helped me understand that happiness comes from outside. The joy is what we have inside that we can always have with us. Happiness, we kind of depend upon others to help with, to be able to travel from India to New York, to be able to have the finances or the resources to do things.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
However, the joy that we feel inside, that is the inner peace that most people are searching for. What are your thoughts on that?
I love that. That is such a powerful and great way to look at it because, yes, my teacher, one of the statements that he would often say, which I say to my students now, is I'm going to teach you an inner peace, a love and a joy that's not dependent on external circumstances, events, or people, right? So that is really what you discover when you look inside. Yeah, when we turn our focus away from what others are doing, what's happening outside, and we really look inside, right? So, yes, 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 that is your birthright, in my opinion. It is your
Mhm.
birthright to feel peaceful, to feel joyful, to feel loving, to feel present. And unfortunately, because of the society's obsession with getting stuff as a way to feel fulfilled, right? And it starts with the education, right? Get your education, get to the highest education, try to, get that honors degree, get that master's degree, get the PhD, and somehow that's supposed to give you a sense of well-being in yourself, which of course it doesn't. I mean, a lot of kids are coming apart mentally, emotionally, spiritually as they pursue these goals, because not everybody is an intellect, right? There are
Exactly.
people that their intelligence shows as dance or as art or music, or there are just so many ways that somebody can be intelligent, right? Some people love being in nature, love plants, and unfortunately, we have one dimension of intelligence, which is just like training, the mind and going as high as you can with mind knowledge. So, the I call it the PhD on how to be happy is not being taught anywhere, right? And that's why we have increase of burnout, of insomnia, of chronic pain, of depression, breakdowns, and these are in highly uh, intelligent societies, right? Here in Europe, and I guess in America too, where people are literally breaking down and popping pills to feel better and to
Mm.
do all kinds of things, because we've become so fragmented on what really matters, which is being inside your internal compass, working on that grounding and that light that inside of you. So yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, I think you were gone for a second, Karen. You just froze
Yes,
for a second,
our
but you're
listeners,
back.
I do apologize here. I revamped my studio, and my internet connection is apparently not as fulfilling as I had hoped. But hey, this is too important. Please try and overlook that. This is too important. What Mahima is sharing here is so great. So how can our listeners start to discover their higher purpose? I know you mentioned meditation, and I have to be, well, I don't have to, but I'm going to share. Um, for me, sitting down and meditating for an hour, 2 hours, 5 hours, even a half an hour is is very challenging. So if I can meditate for 5 minutes at a time and work up, that for me, I have found to be very helpful. I
Hmm.
love the meditation. I love connecting with our higher selves, connecting with spirit, connecting with the guidance. I like to call them my crew. My crew is all around all the time. And as we were talking, it was like, oh, yeah, she's saying all the right things. Mahima is saying all the right things. This is
Yes.
exactly it. Listen, guys, listen. So, what are your thoughts for the best way that, well, a way to discover our higher purpose, our missions in life?
Mm. I love that. So there are two purposes for us in this life, right? One of them I call the soul purpose, and one I call the body purpose, which can also be known as the life purpose, right? So in the soul purpose, the soul, Soul, right? The soul, purpose is to elevate yourself, to experience life, to live and feel life, to feel the sun, to feel the wind, to smell the flowers, to connect with your loved ones, being in your heart, being present with them, to wake up with a sense of awe and curiosity on what can you do with what you've been given inside your mind, inside of your heart, and to kind of just participate in experiencing life. So a lot of us don't focus on the soul purpose, right? We focus on the life purpose. And now the life purpose is what's this body going to do with its time, right? And that is like
Mm.
being a coach, being a baker, being an accountant, being a lawyer, being a firefighter, right? So a lot of people, when they think about purpose, they think about life purpose in terms of work, job, right? But this is just a smaller and less important purpose, in my humble opinion, right? The bigger purpose is to return, to not return, to know yourself, to love yourself, to experience life in technicolor, right? To feel the rush of enthusiasm and excitement about life and living, right? To be able to not just see the negative, but see the beauty, to be able to not just talk about and focus on the negative, but see the positive and experience the positive, right? Both shades are there. It is part of the fabric of planet Earth that we have sadness and happiness. We wouldn't know happiness if sadness didn't exist. So this opposite makes the reality. So light, we wouldn't know what light is if there wasn't dark. We wouldn't be able to distinguish what does light mean, right? So light exists so that darkness exists. So these are the opposites. Hot and cold, happy, sad, good and bad. These are all parts of the fabric of life here on planet Earth. Now let's imagine you might go to another planet. Maybe there they just have light. They just have happiness. I don't know, right? It doesn't matter. Here on planet Earth, you have both. And so the sole purpose is to know yourself beyond the story of the body. Okay? We came into this body with nothing, and we're going to leave this body with nothing. And the mystery is that we don't know how much time we have,
Mm.
right? We could literally have hours left in our life, that, or minutes. Like, there are people leaving their body as we speak right now who weren't thinking that that would happen to them, right? And it's happening. So that the sole purpose is to come back to this mystery of understanding life itself, right? And instead of burying our heads in the sand and pretending like for being, a baker is the most, like, no, that is just an outlet for your soul to express itself, right?
Mm.
So what I love to teach people is to come back to their essence, come back to this place of playfulness, of lightness, of respecting the fact that you could leave your body any second. So live as an awake being that is conscious of, hey, I have this moment now to be here in this body, and this moment matters. And what I do, feel, and say, and how I am in this moment matters, because it is life. It's life itself. But when you're in the ego mind, life is somewhere in the future.
Yeah.
It's somewhere tomorrow. It's somewhere when you've, sorted out all your debts. It's somewhere where you've got the dream job. It's somewhere when you've met the dream husband. But that's a lie. Life is now. Life is this present moment. So my work, what I do is help people settle into soul purpose, the purpose of your soul, which is to feel elevated and to be curious about how you are co-creating reality with the forces that are all around you, right? So we're not just victims, puppet on a string. And that's what I discovered, right? That's what I discovered from my India awakening. I didn't have to live the life my mother lived in Zimbabwe. I didn't have to go to a 9 to 5 job, and and I didn't have to pursue higher and higher educations as the only way to success, right? I could I could think differently, I could act differently, and I could create different results, right? I didn't need to be defined by what my society and other people told me. So the first decision I made was I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I don't yet know how I'm going to do this, but freedom is super important to me since I've been living this free life. I'm in love with it. I don't want to go to a 9 to 5 job. So I need to figure out how can I continue doing this. So those were the type of first early decisions I made after being in India for, like about, 18 months. I started to think, okay, so how can I start co-creating with the universe through my thoughts, through my feelings. And those were the kind of decisions that I was making. Like, I want to be an entrepreneur. And I started my entrepreneur journey simple, making some yoga clothes with a friend of mine, which we tried to sell in Canada, right? So I didn't start and thinking I'm going to create a big empire. I just thought, I love fashion. I used to be a model. I love fashion. I used to work in a shop. I used to help with designing. So I went to what I knew. I went to what I was already good at, right? And started to create from there. And became clear that this whole fashion thing is not going to be my life, right? And I continued meditating and trying other stuff. The art behind me, that's my art,
Oh,
right? So
beautiful.
yeah, so at one point I went and I was trying to get some art deals in New York, and I actually got a gallery that said they'd sponsor me if I could find a way to stay in America. So I was living my geniuses and finding things that I loved and trying to find a way how to make money. And I sold some art pieces along the way and had a lot of fun with that. So, you know, through allowing ourselves to follow our bliss, we can create outside the lines of what the society told us is possible. That is what I've discovered, right?
Living in your
Um,
joy, living in your joy,
yes,
whatever that
yes.
might be, and stop making it so lickety blank hard.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, 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 yes.
it's when I started the podcast years ago, I said I'm going to do a podcast. How can I do it? What do I need to do? It wasn't really a how. What do I need to do? Why do I want to do it? And I had my reasons of why I wanted to do it. And how can I do it simply and easily? Because I prefer not to be in overwhelm. I prefer not to be stressed out. So, what do I need to do to make sure that I stay out of that overwhelm, out of that stress, and have fun? And so I told people I was doing this podcast. They said, "Oh my gosh, that's so hard. You have to do all of this stuff. You're doing it by yourself. I can't even imagine." And I said, "I don't understand what the issue is. I'm meeting fantabulous people. I have Zoom, I have recording. I don't know why it's so hard."
I love that. Yes.
But I
Yes,
guess
yes,
as you
yes.
grow, you need more people and help along the way, and that's where I am now. But that when I started
Mm-hmm.
out, it was like, no, I
Yes.
I don't do hard.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Follow the bliss, follow the joy, and follow your heart. And it sounds so simple, and for people maybe out there that are like, yeah, well, how do I start? It's that coming back to what really matters. You came into this world with nothing. You're going to leave with nothing. Yes, we put a lot of investment in future, right? And often we let the past define our future, right? So whatever terror we experienced over there, we expect to experience it over there. And that's really the problem. And the only place to disrupt that pattern of creating what you created in the past in the future is by living in the present moment, like understanding that what you do today matters. So an example, if today you're feeling grounded, peaceful, kind, loving, respectful to yourself and others, you're planting seeds that cannot become anything else than something more beautiful, because you're planting those seeds right now. If you're planting seeds of anger, of lack, of confusion, of fear, you're planting those seeds now, those become your tomorrows, right? So it's understanding how powerful the now is. The now is the place where you can transform your entire existence moving forward, right? By just allowing yourself to question, who am I? Who
Yeah.
am I? Yeah, you're not your story. You're not your body. You're not your belongings. You're not your possessions. You're not your car. You're not your house. You're not your friends. You're not your children. Because all of this will be one day gone out of your reality, right? So that was the deeper work that I did on this soul purpose, right? Soul purpose. And that purpose is really what sets you free to be able to participate in the rest of whatever is going on with much more enthusiasm, right? Much more ability to laugh at yourself. You will cry when things are shitty. Like, I'm not saying I just laugh all the time, right? But I also put the thing into perspective, right? Like
Exactly.
in the bigger scope of things, you know, I don't even know what's happening right now because sometimes things that look bad turn out to be some of the best things that ever happened to you, right?
Everything for a
Initially,
purpose, everything for a reason. Things
exactly.
happen. And if we can look at it with a different perspective
Yes.
and be mindful of what the situation really is, that it would you say that that is kind of what gets you unstuck when you're in your life path, is being able to be more mindful and aware of what's going on at the moment?
Absolutely. Like if you can just like shift perspectives from the small picture, which I call the me box, into the bigger perspective, which is how is my reality based on everything else that's going on planet Earth, right? So that is the bigger picture. And in that bigger picture, most of the people listening to this podcast are living well, right? Like most of the people that are going to have the opportunity to be playing this on some kind of a device, on, it has food, running water, electricity, has a lot of things to start the foundation of gratitude and abundance, because abundance creates abundance. But
Yeah.
if you have a mindset which is focusing on lack, and my husband and I experienced bankruptcy once because of some bad decisions that he took. I can't take the responsibility in this particular case, because it was his business and I was advising him, but he thought, this is my second husband, by the way, which is an amazing, beautiful man. We've been together for 23 years
Oh,
and
congratulations.
almost, thank you, and conscious relationship. And about, like, I think 4 years into the relationship, we experienced this bankruptcy. And, I already had built the abundance mindset, which is, you know, let's focus on what really matters, which is we have food, we have bed, we have so much. My sister's helping me, our friend, like we've got all the support we need. We just need to stay focused on looking for opportunities to get as quickly through this as possible, right? So instead of getting down on ourselves, instead of getting depressed, we started get creative. We started get innovative on how we were going to, get ourselves out of this mess. And we went through that whole experience in discovering we're living in a friendly universe that is designed to support us, because we had so much help, we had so many good things happening all the time. We were creating miracles, we were creating magic. And so losing everything actually made us realize how easy it is to feel this support that you're co-creating from the universe, right? And so it was actually one of the most empowering times. Now I don't have such a fear of losing, because once you've lost you and rebuilt, you don't have that fear anymore. It's like, yeah, okay, shit happens. You can lose everything, and then you just build it up again, right? Um,
Exactly,
and you
exactly. And
go,
that's when
yeah,
the joy starts coming in, because you
mm-hmm,
have that
mm-hmm.
knowledge that you can do that.
Exactly,
And that,
exactly. So you're not making fear-based decisions, and living in fear of not having enough and losing everything, right? It's like, no, been there, done that. We're good.
it's finding the right people, the right environment, whether it be mind, body, spirit, people, physical, mental, whatever environment to help alleviate that and alleviate the confusion and really gain that clarity that is
Mm,
so powerful, I think. And if we, and I find myself like you, yeah, stuff happens. I go down the tubes, no question about it. But one of my biggest questions is always, what are the other possibilities?
mm-hmm.
And
Good
is this the
question.
way I want to stay?
Yes, yes, powerful. Powerful, because that's taking responsibility for what you've created, that your choices do matter.
Mm,
Your, and I'll keep it simple. If you drink whiskey every day, it's going to be very different than if you drink smoothies
yeah,
every day, right? It's a
right.
choice I'm making into what I put into my body. We make those choices who we hang out with. We make those choices where we choose to, what we choose to do, like what programs on Netflix we watch, right? You can watch things that are are soul light diminishing and fear inducing, or you can watch things that are mind expanding and joy producing, right? We're making choices that will be affecting the outcome of what's happening here, right? And so really taking that responsibility for those choices, and starting. I love when students join our campus. I love to see how surprised they are at how fast they start to change their external reality, things that they were struggling with for literally years start changing, right? Like we've had people that were let's say not getting the jobs that they wanted to get, like always feeling like, no, I'm just not getting the job that lights up my soul or that I'm really passionate about. I go for these jobs, but I never get them, right? They start
Yeah,
working with us literally like weeks later. Sometimes it takes a month or two. Boom, suddenly they created their dream job. And they're like, what just happened? I said, you have been co-creating your energy, what you think, what you feel matters. The choices you make matter. And because you've been choosing meditation, you've been choosing to be part of a mindful tribe, you've been choosing to go on the online academy and listen to, talks and stuff that I have over there that's going to help you change perspective. You've been changing inside. And as you change inside, the external has to change, right? There's no other way that this can be.
yeah.
If you're chaotic inside and there's a lot of fear and frustration, you're creating that externally, right? And so I really ask anyone who's listening to this to start to honor and be mindful of creating inside of you a foundation where you can start to feel this elevation inside, right? That will allow you to create the elevation that you're looking for externally.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. And you said this is an online program that you offer, Mahima?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. We have
Eh,
different things. We do like, mostly we do online, right?
okay.
Like because of everything that's happened with COVID. But for example, we will do a live face-to-face event here in Zurich in 2 weeks' time.
Ooh,
So the podcast will already be live by the time we do that. But next year we'll also do some live events. So we do live events. It's like a 3-day retreat that people have been flying in from, flying in from various places in the world. In before COVID times, people flew in from all over Europe. We even had people flying from the States for our 3-day event. So, now people are a little bit, it's a little bit different in terms of people joining. So we have the online 3-day event that people can join us and,
wonderful.
do this inner work training over a 3-day period. We also, I have a free gift to offer everyone today,
Oh,
which
great.
is, yeah, it's going to be my 21-day meditation challenge, which is just an opportunity, whether you know meditation already. And when you talked about meditation before, I meditated for, all of those hours because I was invested in being a teacher, in being a mentor, a guide using meditation, right? So I don't expect my students to meditate for 2 or 3, 4, 5 hours a day, right? That was something I did because it was for me clear that I'd found my calling, I'd found my purpose, I'd found some like a tool and something I wanted to really master so that when I share it with other people, I can help them easily go into the places that they need to go. So my 21-day meditation challenge is 15 minutes a day. You can continue sitting afterwards if you feel moved to. It's just effortless. Sit for another half hour. Sit for as long as you like, right? But those 15 minutes are powerful and they'll give you grounding. Meditation is not just about sitting in stillness and watching the thoughts coming and meditation is about reprogramming your mind, eliminating new pathways inside of your brain about how you observe yourself and the world, right? So in the 21-day meditation challenge, I choose topics, and on those topics, I hack those topics inside of your system, right? So let's say the topic would be love. A lot of people think about love as something that they have to give and receive. What if love is who you are?
Oh,
Love is the DNA of your soul. So we have the DNA of a physical body. What if love is the DNA of your soul? It is your presence. It is not, you don't need to give it, you don't need to receive it. It is who you are. So I start to plant these new ideas, or they're not new, quite frankly and honestly. They stuff you already know, and that's why people resonate with it, right? So we bring back the wisdom of the heart. We bring it back to the surface,
wow.
right?
I love
So
that.
yeah. And so the 21 day meditation challenge is going to help you do that. And then I'm also going to offer my international best-selling book, which has my inner peace formula in it. And I'm also going to offer my 7 days reprogram your mind, which is literally another way of just getting you to think differently about yourself and the world. For example, the perspective I gave you on purpose, right? That
Yeah.
there's two purposes. One is to work on yourself and be a powerful, integrated, heart opened human being, right? That has worked on his issues and his traumas, his pains, his triggers, and you're working on that stuff, right? That's your sole purpose, to do that inner work. And then your body purpose, to be a dentist or a scientist or whatever else you want to
Your
be.
your
So
life
that's
purpose. Yeah.
exactly. So the reprogramming your mind is giving those type of perspective shifts. And that's going to be, yeah, it's a free membership, and you can click the link that comes with this podcast to, get your three gifts from me to you today.
Oh, that is so huge, Mahima. Thank you so much for providing that, because that is a huge beginning start for people.
Thank
And
you.
coming from Mahima, I mean, she's just amazing. What can I say? You can hear it. She's just awesome, awesome. And yes, that link will be in the comments below. So by all means, click on that. Get that 21-day immersion into becoming the you that you know you are. Because when we have that energy going out into the world, your mindset changes, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And mindset, all set, right? The reason we suffer is because of the way we think.
Yeah.
The reason we suffer is because of the way we're responding. We're responding or reacting to life, right? Do I deny that there are some painful things that go on in the world? Absolutely, I do not deny that. But I can just talk about my personal experience and the experience of the students that surround me every day. They are blown away with how much more beauty they create in their lives when they clean up the inner yuckiness, right? The
Oh,
inner messiness. It
and it
does
doesn't have
something.
to be so hard. It doesn't have to
No,
take
it's
for
fun.
years and and
No.
and and
Yeah.
and drugs. It doesn't have to take drugs. It doesn't have to take it. We don't need to make it as difficult as we do.
Absolutely. And we're living in a culture now where people are just getting it much faster. When I started, 2.5 decades ago, I'm sort of like part of the pioneers of bringing, this kind of Western meets Eastern philosophy, right? And okay, you can go further back to the Beatles and and the flower power times where I guess that's when Karen's saying you don't need the drugs, right, to have the mind expansion. So there's been people paving this path of exploring consciousness, exploring self-awareness, right? And because of all that has already been created, um, my students are blown away with how fast their shift. In fact, in the 3 day event that we do, the person who joins on Friday will not be the same person who leaves the event on Sunday. It's like the contrast is vast, and people are always blown away. They're always so shocked. They're like, I do not understand what has happened to me. People that have been in therapy and really struggling to find peace and joy already on day two are like, I'm a different person. Then it's, like I haven't felt this peaceful, I haven't felt this grounded, I haven't felt this joyful in years, right? And I'm like, look, this is not rocket science. We're just simply giving the space for you to come back home, right?
I
And this
love
is your
that.
birthright. This is your
It
birthright. These
is.
feelings are there. They're just there for you. But we do need to understand how to hack them and how to get to them, right? Which is what happened to me, and that's why I love sharing this with other people. Yeah,
Oh,
I
I
was.
love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing this with the Awesome Life audience. This is so powerful. And I keep going back to just one simple exercise that I did before I believe in meditation. Yeah, right. You know, I just said, nope, this is not for me. But when I went through it, it was, as you said, so mind expanding. I got in the car afterwards with my ride, and they said, Karen, I've known you your whole life. I've never seen you so much at peace. And I
Yep.
know that that is what happens with your retreats and your school and academy. It is so powerful. So,
Absolutely. I love that. I love that, Karen. Thank you for encouraging people to find a way to start working on yourself,
ah,
in a different way, right? In
it's what
this.
it's all about. That's how we're going to make
Hmm.
a change in this world. It's making a change in ourselves first, living in that joy that is inside of us all, no matter what's going on
Absolutely.
around us. Thank you. I wish that I can't wait until the next time that we get a chance to visit and talk and share, Mahima. Thank you so much for this time. And listeners, be sure to come, like, subscribe to the Awesome Life podcast, visit Mahima. All of her information is in the contact information below, the comments below. So be sure to check us all out. Until next time, have an
Love you
awesome life.
all.
Bye bye.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone. Bye.